Iran is charging ships $2 million to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Not a rumor. Bloomberg confirmed it. Lloyd's list confirmed it. An Iranian lawmaker went on television and said it openly, and their parliament is now drafting legislation to make it permanent. 20% of the world's oil and gas normally passes through that waterway. If Iran succeeds in turning it into a toll road, the cost of energy, shipping, and food changes not just for the duration of this war, but potentially for years after it ends. I've been digging into this for the last few days, and I think it might be the most important economic story to come out of the entire conflict. Here's what's happening, how much money is involved, and why it could permanently change what you pay for gas, groceries, and heating. To understand why this matters, you need to know what the Strait of Hormuz actually carries. In normal times, roughly 20 million barrels of crude oil pass through it every day, along with massive volumes of liquefied natural gas, fertilizer raw materials, helium, and general cargo. It's the single most important energy choke point on Earth. When it's open, it's invisible. You never think about it. But when it's disrupted, everything moves. Your gas price, your heating bill, your grocery receipt. Right now, traffic is at roughly 5% of normal. Nearly 2,000 vessels and 20,000 seafarers are stranded on either side, waiting. Since mid-March, Iran has been selectively letting a small number of ships through, but only on its terms. The IRGC rerouted vessels from the normal international shipping lane to an alternate path hugging the Iranian coast, where they can be monitored, stopped, and vetted before being granted passage. Lloyd's list reported that 26 ships have transited under this IRGC toll booth system. At least 2 vessels paid the fee in Chinese yuan, through a Chinese maritime services company acting as an intermediary. Iran also sent a formal letter to all 176 members of the International Maritime Organization, stating that non-hostile vessels may benefit from safe passage in coordination with Iranian authorities. That language reframes passage through an international waterway as a privilege granted by Iran, not a right guaranteed by international law. This is the detail that, if you ask me, changes everything about how this war ends. Until now, most of the economic damage was assumed to be temporary. The war ends, a deal gets struck, the strait reopens, oil comes back down. But a toll changes that calculation entirely. Iran isn't just using the strait as a weapon. It's converting a temporary military advantage into a permanent revenue stream. The new supreme leader used his first public address to say that the leverage of blocking the waterway must continue to be used. Iran has demanded international recognition of its sovereignty over the strait as one of its conditions for ending the war. This isn't a blockade with an expiration date. It's a system being built to outlast the fighting. The money involved is staggering. At $2 million per tanker and roughly 10 very large crude carriers needed daily to move 20 million barrels, that's $20 million a day from oil alone. CNN estimates that including LNG, the figure could exceed $800 million per month. For context, that's roughly what Egypt earns from the Suez Canal, which is an artificial waterway with over a century of legal authority to charge tolls. Iran is trying to extract the same revenue from a natural international strait where charging fees has no basis in international law. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio called it illegal, unacceptable, and dangerous to the world after a G7 meeting. India's Prime Minister Modi said no one can levy a fee on the strait, and yet ships are paying. Because when your cargo has been stranded for 3 weeks and your customers are canceling contracts, $2 million is just a cost of doing business. That's how leverage works. Every cost added at the strait gets passed down the chain to you. A $2 million toll on a tanker carrying 2 million barrels adds roughly $1 per barrel before the oil even reaches a refinery. That might sound small, but multiply it across the 20 million barrels that normally pass through each day, and you're looking at a permanent surcharge baked into the global price of energy for every country that imports from the Gulf. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are rerouting some exports through pipelines that bypass Hormuz, but those pipelines have limited capacity. They can't replace the volume that normally moves by sea. The alternative shipping route around the southern tip of Africa adds 3 to 4 weeks and significantly higher fuel and insurance costs. Either way, the price goes up. And either way, that price gets passed to you at the pump and on your heating bill. And then there's the part of this story that concerns me the most, and it's getting almost no coverage. 30% of the world's urea and sulfur exports, both critical inputs for agricultural fertilizer, pass through the Strait of Hormuz. When those shipments are disrupted, farmers in the US, Europe, and South America pay more for fertilizer, or they use less of it. Both outcomes lead to the same place: lower crop yields and higher food prices. The UN World Food Programme has already flagged this as a major threat to global food security. The Fertilizer Institute has warned about the scale of the disruption. The thing about fertilizer disruptions is they don't show up in your grocery bill next week. They show up 6 to 12 months later, after the planting season has passed and the harvest comes in short. You won't see the connection by then. But it starts here, in a narrow strait between Iran and Oman, where ships are now paying $2 million for the privilege of passing through. There are two ways this plays out. In the first, the international community pushes back hard enough that the toll never gets formalized. The G7 statement holds. The US, alongside Gulf states and major maritime nations, establishes a security framework that reopens the strait without Iranian conditions. The mines get cleared. Commercial insurance rates gradually come back down. Oil drifts toward 90. The toll attempt becomes a footnote in the history of this conflict. Your gas settles around $3.50 to $3.75, higher than before the war, but manageable. The fertilizer supply chain recovers in time for the next planting season. In the second scenario, the toll sticks. Iran formalizes it into law. Every barrel of Gulf oil and every LNG tanker from Qatar pays a fee to transit. That fee gets built into the base price of energy globally, the same way the Suez Canal toll is built into the cost of goods shipped from Asia to Europe. Shipping insurance stays elevated indefinitely because the IRGC retains the ability to revoke passage at will. The alternative routes around Africa become the new normal for cautious operators, adding weeks and billions in annual costs. Fertilizer prices stay high because the raw materials can't move efficiently. Food prices follow, not immediately, but steadily over the next 12 to 18 months. And what was supposed to be a temporary war cost becomes a permanent surcharge on global trade that never fully reverses, because the rules of who controls the world's most important shipping lane changed during a conflict that most Americans didn't want in the first place. I don't know which outcome is more likely. What I do know is that a month ago, the Strait of Hormuz was open, free, and invisible. Today, it has a price tag. And whoever ends up paying it, the final bill always lands in the same place: on your kitchen table, in your gas tank, and on your grocery receipt.